So thank you, Denver, Veijo, and Sadashni for being with us today. I'm going to hand over to Denver, Grigg now to introduce more information about the Cesim and ACBSP qualifier. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne. I appreciate the introduction. So I'm very excited for this session. It's a real opportunity for students, the Cesim Elite competition and the regional qualifier. And I'm really hopeful. I'm grateful for the people that are attending. Hope we can get the word out there that this is a unique opportunity for students across Africa, Europe, parts of Asia, the Middle East and Asia, and Oceania. I think it's a huge opportunity. I'm very grateful for Veijo and Sadashni to share their thoughts on it. And I really hope everyone in this call will get their students to participate in the competition. It's free to enter, and it's a really interesting opportunity for students. Sadashni will share more around that. I'm also, just to give a bit more context, the entry is free. It's open to any business school in the area. In the area, we can accept 3 teams per business school, and there's an unlimited number of business schools that can participate. It's also very engaging for faculty. Faculty will need to participate as a coach with their students, and there's a lot to gain for faculty and for students through this participation. If institutions are interested in simulation software and have never participated, there's no cost to enter except to spend time participating and to actually access the software for the first time and see how it works. So that's a really exciting opportunity. Like I said, I'm really excited by this opportunity especially for Africa, where I come from. And this is linked to this competition as part of the ACBSP Region 8 conference, which is being hosted in South Africa in November. You don't need to attend the conference to participate in the competition, but the winners will be announced during the gala dinner at the conference on the 7th of November. So there's this nice link between ACBSP and Cesim and SABSA that we're trying to promote. Yeah, like I said, it's not a standalone activity. And then there's 3 things to do. It's to enter the team by the 4th of September, as many teams as you want, 3 per institution. Veijo will, with Professor van Dijk from Stellenbosch University, will actually be talking about simulation in the curriculum. It's not about the product, it's really about simulation in the curriculum. And then you can join us in Stellenbosch between the 5th and the 7th of November for our conference if you're interested. But just to thank Sadashni and to thank Veijo for their time, I'd like to hand over to Veijo now for him to take us through his presentation and how to prepare your students for the competition. The video will be available on YouTube, so you can always refer back to it and share it with colleagues. So just over to you, Veijo, and thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thanks so much, Anne and Denver, and thanks also for supporting this kind of simulation competition. We are very, very happy to be part of it. Okay. So at Cesim, we provide business simulations for higher education globally. We have been operating more than quarter of a century, and our clients come from more than 40 different countries. There's 1,500 plus institutions who use these simulations, and we have been working together with ACBSP Region 8 for quite some time already, and providing this kind of competition opportunity for the conference participants and different stakeholders around it. And now I'm going to talk to you about the kind of, let's say, technicalities of the simulation, plus also try to give you some hints. The reason why I'm here today is actually because I was playing this kind of business games myself when I was at the college, and that was a long time ago in the early 90s. But there we participated, and then it was part of the course curriculum at the school. And during the first year of the studies, I was, let's say, frustrated young man because I didn't quite understand the big picture. There was marketing, and there was operations, and there was bookkeeping, and all these topics taught by right individuals, but I was still missing the big picture until the second year. We then had this course called Business Game, and that became a transformational learning experience for me, because I really started understanding how the different functions in a business actually work together to create value. And back then it was done with those very, let's say, ancient systems. We had a piece of paper where we put numbers. We gave the piece of paper to the professor, and then we waited 2 weeks to get the to get the results. So these days, obviously, things are very different, but it was very, very strong learning experience, and it really put this kind of seed inside of me that this is something that must be developed. And then later, after graduation, me and my business partner, we started doing this, first providing them for the corporate in-house programs. We still do that to some extent, but the bigger and more scalable part of the business these days is higher education globally. And now, in case we have people in the audience who are not familiar with the notion of business games, let's talk about that a little bit. And that is, it's a kind of like our form of simulation is a game. So we play against the other teams, not against the computers. And we make decisions about various different areas of business. I will give you a quick glance on the interface later so you can see what kind of decisions are being made, but you make decisions about pricing, marketing, operations, ESG, finance, and so forth. And then the decisions that you make will be compared against the other teams. At the time of the deadline, the system calculates the results, and then you move on to the next round. That is our type of a business simulation game, and that's what your students will be experiencing in this competition. There's a range of different kind of simulations in our portfolio. We have them for sector-specific areas like banking, hospitality, retail, and so forth. But the one that we are going to be using here in this competition is more the kind of, let's say, classic business game where you run a manufacturing company. And of course, in the heart of it is learning by doing. Now, today, we have 4 things that I hope to deliver, how the competition is structured and scored, and what it asks from the teams, then some hints for you how to prepare and support your teams, and then also a little bit about the broader learning value, which is born out of these simulations. And now, as I mentioned, each of the teams run a virtual company, and they make decisions at the time of the deadline. The system picks the decisions from each of the teams, puts them together, and then calculates results. And the results become available at the time of the deadline, and then they start preparing for the new round. And I will later show you what the results are and what's the scoring, but it is business decision making which is objectively scored by the system, and the results will be seen and available for all the participants at the time of the deadline. And this is global. Now we have been running this what we call Cesim Elite event already for 5 years that gathers 20,000 plus students from all corners of the world. And now 2 of the best teams from this ACBSP Region 8 competition will qualify for the international final in Cesim Elite. So they have their opportunity to test themselves against the world's elite business simulation participants. And this is already something that Denver mentioned, but just as a repeat, you join a team, you compete in the Region 8 competition, and then 2 of the best teams will qualify for the international final, which is going to happen then late May, early June next year. Okay, so let's talk about the simulation a little bit. So there is, big part for myself when I was a student was obviously the holistic thinking, understanding how the different functions integrate and create value, and the same experience we also want to give to your students. So strategy plays a big role. Then finance, obviously, there's no business without finance and numbers. Marketing plays a key role. the market-oriented thinking and the customer orientation is a key success factor in the simulation. Also need to take care of the operations. Then leadership and the team, let's say team cohesion and team work has always been probably the biggest success factor of any of the teams. So when the team works well, then things usually work out. And then also in the simulation, sustainability and responsible management play a key role. So there's a range of ESG, environmental, social, and governance decisions that the teams must also consider when they make decisions. And this will now take me to the simulation itself. Let me just jump there. So here now we are in the simulation interface. What you see at the moment is the instructor interface. Now, don't care too much about this at the moment. When the deadline for the signups, meaning September 4th, is done, then all the instructors who have signed up a team for the ACBSP Region 8 competition, you will get your kind of trial account, kind of like a sandbox to the simulation. So that includes the instructor interface, plus it includes a trial course for the simulation that will be used in the competition. So that's going to happen after the sign-up period for the competition is done, to keep like a level playing field for all the teams who join the competition. But in other words, you will have a chance to see the simulation as an instructor before the competition starts. So now we are inside the instructor interface. I'm just going to jump into the student interface and give you a little bit of an idea what happens there. So we have decisions and results where most of the action happens. And then there's the schedule. You will see the deadlines for all the rounds, and the students obviously must complete the decisions after the deadlines. You can see the teams who compete. There's some reading materials and even discussion forums if needed. But the decisions is the heart of the simulation. And the way it works is that it has some tutorial information, videos, etc. Then there's a market outlook for each round that gives information about what is happening in the operating environment. So the first thing that the students must do is to read the manual and get familiar with the manual content. But for each round, they also need to take the market outlook information into consideration. That is super important. Then it goes into actual decision-making process. And in this simulation that's going to be used for the qualifying competition, they run a building materials company. And the simulation is progressive, so it starts with 2 areas and 1 product. Later there's going to be 2 products and additional market area. They start with 1 production area, but there's going to be an additional production area coming later. And the simulation is now based in Southeast Asia. We have Thailand as the home market, and Indonesia is the first foreign market where they operate, and then additional market is going to be coming later. So there is progress in the simulation, giving the students the kind of opportunity to start running the business step by step. But now the way that the simulation works, and we're not going to have time to go through every single detail about the simulation. So we have in the simulation, we have blue cells, which means that these are our estimations about what we think will happen. So for example, here we estimate the total market growth, and then we estimate the demand forecast. We don't know how much we are going to be selling because we don't know what the competitors are doing. But in order for us to be able to create budgets and pro forma statements, we need to make some estimations. So we estimate the sales in these cells, and then we start making decisions about investments. We also have these environmental decisions regarding CO2 emissions, energy consumptions, and water consumption that will then influence our environmental scores. We have production planning decisions where we allocate capacity, we invest in research and development, we invest in operational improvements, We can also select from different suppliers that have different raw material quality and sustainability ratings and costs. So we need to balance among different factors. We also make decisions regarding training priorities for our workforce. So these training priorities will then influence our social score. Then under sales, we make decisions about price and promotion. And these will then obviously be directly compared against the other teams. So if you have a team that has a reasonable price, reasonable promotion and good product quality, they will be taking more sales than a team that has exorbitant price and bad quality and no promotion, obviously. So none of this logic is anyhow different compared to the real life market mechanisms. So we operate in Thailand and Indonesia initially, where we set the prices and promotions. Then we also have these kind of additional deliveries for which we can make special offers. They also require a certain level of sustainability certification in order for us to participate. So the sustainability and responsible management has been integrated to the entire decision-making logic. We have some logistics decisions where we decide the delivery priorities. We also have some corporate level decisions where we manage the finances. So we decide the loans. We can take more loan if we need, and we can pay off existing loan if we can afford it. And then we have these sustainability certifications. So when we reach certain ESG score, we are able to acquire a certification. So that's the kind of decision-making playing field that we are looking at in this simulation. We have projections that helps the students to keep on track of how they are doing. So on the right-hand side, we can see what are the exact results for the year before. Let's say actual results for the year before. And then under this year, we see our budget. So at the moment, we are looking at about 3 million in profit. Now, if I go and change my price here from 1,800 to 1,500, so then in the projections we can see how that takes more than 1 million away from the bottom line. So the projections help us continuously see how the different decisions influence the outcomes. So we have income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, and various different financial ratios that we can track. And then last but not least is the decision checklist. This goes a bit on the technical side, but this is so important that I want you to know it already. So each student has their own access to the simulation. So here in this demo version, we have Harvey, Alan, and Philip in the same team. Each of them can make their own decisions in the simulation, and then they can see here on this page how the different outcomes appear for the individuals who have been making their decisions. And typically also the instructor has been given an access inside the team so that you as a faculty or let's say coach for the team, you are also one of the participants and you can see how your team is doing. Obviously, in the actual competition, we will not be giving you the instructor access. That's not going to happen because that information cannot be shared what you can see as an instructor in the actual competition, but you have the instructor actions beforehand. Okay, so that's it from the decision-making process. Then you have the results appearing here. You can see all the different teams side by side. There's a range of results that let your team analyze their own performance and also benchmark against the competitors. And the winning criteria in this simulation is the, let me see, summary page. It's the cumulative earnings. So cumulative earnings is what we will be using as a winning criteria in the ACBSP Region 8 competition. So that's simply how much profit you make throughout all the rounds that you are participating. All right, so this instructor interface you will get after the sign-up period is done. Now Denver or maybe it was Anne who mentioned the AI stuff. So we have been working a lot on the like integrating AI on the platform. So you will be able to then see this kind of AI assistant in the interface, and the AI assistant helps you to analyze results and help you to create the curriculums and so forth. So AI does play a key role on our platform.
Veijo, you have one question, if I could just read it out to you.
Of course, yes.
So the question is, if a team of registered students entered the competition now and won the Region 8 qualifier, but they graduated at the end of 2026, would they still be eligible for the international finals?
Yes.
So just to get your take on that.
Yes, that is totally fine. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, now we spoke about the simulation, and then just this maybe comes a little bit from my own experience when I used to play these competitions, and now as it says, fortune favors the prepared, and you know, there's a lot that team can do to improve their chances for winning, and it's very much based on numbers. I'm a little bit of finance guy myself, so I always like to talk about numbers, but that's the language of business, and you know, the decisions as much as possible should be based on analytics, and this is something that you should encourage among your students. So there's a lot of different KPIs that they can track. Then they also need to take into account the competitors, so they are not going to be playing against the computers, so the competitors are going to be having their say. That's always part of the kind of coping with the uncertainty type of element that we cannot do much, but it helps us to at least to think about the competitors. And then the holistic thinking, not trying to optimize one particular area, but try to look at the entire big picture, and those projections that I showed you earlier, which helps the team to see the impact of the decisions and estimations on the bottom line. That's a very good way to start understanding how the different decisions actually interact and kind of trickle down all the way to the bottom line. Now, data analytics, as it says here, that can be a competitive edge. Now, when I was doing this in the old days, we used to build these linear regression models, and it can still be done. I don't know, maybe AI can do it easier these days, but Excel has a very good data analytics package which can be used to create linear regression models. There's a lot of data in the simulation. You can see the price of the competitors, you can see the demand figures of the competitors. So using that to create linear regression models and try to anticipate the demand functions, that used to be one, let's say, competitive edge that we used to have in our system in the old days. That's one example. But whether they do regression analysis or not, at least I would recommend to analyze the product margins very carefully to see what products are making money, what products are not making money, how we should set the price to maximize the profit and so forth. So encourage them to analytics as much as possible. Now there's additional points here, which is read the manual, not only when everything fails, but also you want to understand the manual a little bit before everything fails. So that's a good source of information. Now important, use the practice rounds. There's going to be 2 practice rounds that will then be an opportunity to try the simulation. Use that to the fullest extent possible. Nothing that happens in the practice rounds will have influence in the actual simulation results. Remember to read the market outlooks as said, and then the kind of teamwork part where you have a team there, and hopefully you can help them if they are not able to do it themselves, but they should try to assign the responsibilities in such a way that they are able to cope under pressure. Process, again, this is a little bit on the softer side, but when we used to participate, and maybe Sadashni will share her experience later, but you know, we ended up arguing quite a lot. The closer we came to the deadline, then we had real difficulties coming up with the kind of consensus about the decisions. So So try to anticipate that conflicts will happen, and then part of the success will be based on how well those can be solved, and then how quickly the team can end up with one set of decisions, because at the time of the deadline, only one set of decisions has to be submitted to the system. This is the calendar. So deadline is September 4th for sign up. Then the first practice round deadline is October 6th, the second one October 9th. And then here you can see all the other rounds. So there's going to be a total of 8 actual simulation rounds leading then into the winner announcement on November 7th. And regarding the kind of wider learning value, now we have been doing this more than 25 years, so there must be some value that we create in the organizations for which we provide it. And now, especially in this time of AI, when anything that is written can be done in an instant, so kind of having the students the opportunity to kind of write their own narrative with the simulation, make decisions, see the outcomes, exercise judgment in the process, that is becoming more and more important all the time. Then this helps the students to build some confidence. They can really start seeing how the different functions work together, and they get the sense of running a business, and equally importantly, getting the sense of coping with uncertainty. That is something that is very difficult to kind of give to the students, and that's something that they're going to be facing in real life anyway. So simulation is I would claim, closest thing to that. And then the business acumen, understanding the different functions, seeing how those impact the bottom line. That is more and more important all the time. Final slide from me, reminder, sign up with your team. And now over to Sadashni. Thank you.
Thank you, Veijo. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sadashni Govender, as Anna introduced me, and I'm just going to take you through my personal experience as a student studying an MBA and working through the Cesim simulation. So I just want to share my screen. So I'm Sadashni Govender again. This is just my experience from playing the Cesim simulation during last year, in end of the year, more or less, and how my learnings from my MBA really played a huge role with myself and my team when we were competing. So firstly, what Cesim did was, yes, we know our MBA concepts, or we know our business concepts, but can we really apply it to our business decisions, and how do we apply it as well, and the impact or the effects that come from those decisions? Firstly, the MBA, or at least Cesim simulation, did sit outside of my normal MBA responsibilities, but the experience and the exposure from Cesim itself really allowed me at the time to implement, actually put into practice the MBA concepts that were learned up until that point. Secondly, what we learned as a team was strategy, financing, marketing, and operations. Those concepts we knew in theory, we understood it, we memorized it, we it was more of, now how do we apply it? Can we apply those the theory that we learned, and also what is the real effect that we can see live in front of us, at least? Then the first round obviously was familiar for us, because we could simply, it was a practice round, and we could apply basic knowledge that we knew, and we didn't really go into that much of detail in the beginning. So we didn't realize as a team in the beginning how much more in detail we would have to dig deep into our theory versus just covering the frameworks, or the top part of the framework. Then for us, Cesim as a team, we could see how our decisions impacted the results, or the ratios that we came out with, and then that allowed us to then adjust our decisions accordingly. So it gave us quick feedback in terms of the decisions that we made. And then, sorry, what I want to know from you is, how do you see this, or what do you expect would happen in the instance, for example, when demand increases unexpectedly and the market suddenly shoots up? What do you think is the first point that, or which part do you think would experience the biggest hit or the biggest break? Firstly, would it be your production capacity? Would it be cash flow, perhaps? Cross-functional coordination, or perhaps your original strategy or your original decision that you made before the simulation has run?
Okay. So the question was, when demand increases unexpectedly, what usually breaks first? Production capacity, we had 25%, cash flow 17%, cross-functional coordination 58%, and the original strategy, nothing.
Okay, I like that. So cross-functional strategy, absolutely. So with Cesim, that's what we learned, is that yes, it's cross-functional. Every decision that we made left a little fingerprint or some type of watermark at every stage of the decision process in the simulation. So everything impacted, even the smallest decision impacted the decision that followed after that. So absolutely, cross-functional coordination. And I believe maybe production capacity, cash flow, and the original strategy kind of play into one, which is then the cross-functional coordination. Thank you, everyone, for those who participated. It's interesting to see everyone's responses. Next, okay, so like I said, making a decision in Cesim left fingerprints everywhere. And for us as business students, it was good for us to understand what decision impacted what and what was the result of that. Firstly, pricing. So yes, pricing shapes our demand. In the beginning of the simulation, we had to determine what the demand would be based on the market segment or the market forecast. And that would, the demand then shaped our pricing strategy. From there, the demand would then test our forecasting. So we would forecast the number of units that we would produce based on the demand that we predicted. And following that, from forecasting the demand, we would then need to go into our production. And obviously, production uses capacity. And if we, as the team, didn't have enough capacity to produce the demand that we forecasted, then we would then need to put or pull in more cash flow into our research and development and into growing our capacity so that we can have more product to produce. From there, inventory. Now, if we over forecasted or under forecasted, we would either have too much of inventory or too less inventory. Now, in the instance where we had too much of inventory, it would lock up our cash flow. If we had too less, we would risk, or we ran at the loss of losing that cash flow. Then cash. Cash was our limiting factor in terms of Cesim and the decisions as a team that we took. If we didn't have enough cash, we would run at a loss, or we would end up in a negative EBIT the next round, and then correcting the decisions because of the limiting cash. Or if we had too much of cash, then how could we invest it so we could actually grow our business in the rounds that came afterwards. Creating demand without capacity creates pressure. We experienced that firsthand with Cesim, where we would create too much of demand, create too much of product, but in the following round, we didn't exactly sell the same number of products or capacity of products, and we ended up with that pressure of now trying to rectify and fix our mistakes or the decisions that we made in the previous round. And as a team, that was quite a challenging process. We would take turns and decide what changes do we need to make now to correct the round that followed afterwards. Overproduction, like I said, too much of inventory, and then under-investing in our R&D. So if we didn't have enough features, for example, then we would lose our competitiveness in the later rounds, and our competitors would overtake us based on that technology or the features that they had. And then lastly, the business acumen. So Cesim, yes, we seen it as a dashboard and a scorecard where we could keep track of our decisions and the impacts our decisions were making in terms of our business financial health. And we would monitor our spreadsheets, our balance sheet, our income statements, our ratios, and try and chop and change decisions based on that. Firstly, we looked at profitability because was our choices or decisions in the beginning impacting, how was it at least impacting, and is it creating enough value for our business? Then we'd look at the cash flow. Can our strategy from generating profitability be able to sustain itself and fund itself in terms of future development and growth? Then we had to look at our return on investment. Yes, we're investing all this cash into new development and to increasing capacity, but are our assets basically working hard enough to give us a good return on investment? And these are business concepts that we never actually thought that we could, think to that extent. And Cesim allowed us to do that, to really look at the impact, to look at, is our return on investment working out for us? Is it working hard enough? And being able to see in real life, or at least in that live simulation, how that was impacted, that was quite rewarding for us as a team. Lastly, keeping the shareholders happy. Were our decisions good enough for us to keep our shareholders happy? And then this is just a illustrative schematic of some of the graphs that we would look at in Cesim. And using this from the previous round, there would be a report that would generate from the round before to predict, okay, how do we forecast now our demand in terms of the capacity of what we could produce for the round that was coming up. So this is just for illustrative purposes. And then, yes, so I always like to say that business is not chess against oneself. There's always a second member that's playing. There's always two sides to a chessboard. And that's really important as a team playing in a simulation such as Cesim. Our competitors was something that we had to keep track of throughout the simulation, because their decisions, these are live competitors. Now, based on their decisions, we needed to also realize, okay, how do we improve, or how do we one up our competitors to try and gain that momentum over and above what they were doing? So it was analyzing the results and the data from the previous round, then followed by deciding, okay, now we've analyzed the data, we need to now decide, how do we move forward? How do we strengthen our position as a business? Then reflecting on the decisions. I think Veijo mentioned it a few times, is that yes, we had very much conflicting decisions, ideas and suggestions in terms of how we should chop and change to improve our standing as a business, to improve profitability, and working as a team to be able to understand how each individual thought was quite rewarding, because you don't really see that when you're studying with the book in front of you. But being able to speak to other people and understand how their thinking process works, that was, it opens your mind to a lot bigger, a lot more of what is out there. Lastly is adapting. So unexpected changes, unexpected outcomes after the simulation has run, and you realize, okay, my competitors have made a decision that we didn't quite forecast for. How do we now correct that? How do we correct that decision our competitors have made? So now we can for us to gain momentum. And this is basically a rinse and repeat cycle that we took. We analyzed the data from the previous round. We decided, or we came up with different decisions of how to curb that change. We reflected on those decisions, and then we adapted our decisions based on also our competitors and our team members' inputs. So what can faculty learn from my experience as a student doing an MBA? Firstly, I've got one more poll, and I think this is just for me to understand where everybody lies, is what should count the most when assessing a simulation? Should it be the final ranking? Should it be the quality of decisions, perhaps the reflection and the learning the students gain from it? Or is it the collaboration between the team?
Right, we have 12 responses. With 8% on decision quality, 83% reflection and learning, and 8% on team collaboration.
Okay, that's an interesting one. So yes, I mean, it's everyone seems to be quite directed to reflection and learning. I agree. So going back and reflecting on the previous round's decision in the simulation, is what allowed us to really gain the upper edge as the student, as our team, for the round that followed. But also team collaboration as well, because when different people get together with different ideas, different mindsets, then you really see conflict arise. So it's a split. I like to think of it as a split between reflection and learning and team collaboration. Okay, thank you, everyone. Right, so what made doing Cesim for me worthwhile? Firstly, it really forced me as an individual and my team members to apply our MBA concept. So what we learned in business, not just MBA, I mean, even from before my postgraduate in business studies and management, to apply those concepts in real life, in a simulation where you can see immediate responses. Next, the cross-functional trade-off was obvious and visible to us. So we could see exactly what were we giving up, what did we have to change, what did we have to sacrifice, or what could we strengthen. And that was seen. Every decision we could drop down on the projection and see real time what that decision resulted in. Then, obviously, it rewarded better questions. Not the perfect answers, but definitely better questions. So in the business environment, it was, what is this? How do I explain that? But in Cesim, it allowed us to ask the questions like, what is the impact? How do we change this? What decision is needed to improve this? Those were better questions for us instead of just the surface level questions. Building confidence, yes. So this really as a team, to be able to make decisions without fear and being able to see with confidence, yes, we've made this decision. What was the impact of it? Making mistakes in a safe, fast, and useful way. Cesim allowed us. Every mistake that we made or a decision that we made, we could see safely what was the result of that. And that result happened fairly quickly. And that result at least was useful for us to correct the decision for the next round. And then, of course, managing conflict as a team. So lastly from me is the best lessons that I've learned personally is study the numbers, look at the reports, go back, review them, revisit them, and listen to your team members on those numbers. Watch your competitors, look at your capacity, look at the demand forecasting, and really read into the market segment or how is the market moving for that round, for the next round. Next, treat every result as a feedback. Every single result, from demand to production to capacity to HR, every single decision plays a role. They all leave fingerprints on each other. Next, I do encourage other students to participate in a simulation as such. It allows much more broader, bigger thinking perspective and to really apply concepts that are studied in theory in practice. And lastly, thank you very much for hearing me out. If there is any questions, please do pop them in the chat. Alternatively, you can also raise your hand and just unmute yourself if you do have any questions.
Thank you, Sadashni. That was excellent. Are there any questions from our community that's on the call at the moment?
While we get the questions, I'm just going to put on one slide there as a reminder of what's coming. So now the competition is an opportunity for you to get your team into the game and try the simulation. And then if you're interested in looking at the integration into your curriculum, then we have another webinar coming on the 11th together with Win and Van Dijk from Stellenbosch, who is an active simulation user, and he's going to be sharing his experience. And this has nothing to do with the competition. This is more on the pedagogical side of the simulation adoptions. So put that date in the calendar as well. But Sadashni, that was brilliant. I was so happy to see what you were presenting there, because it resonated like 1000%.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thank you, Sadashni. That was wonderful. Just for both of you, Veijo and Sadashni, there's just a question. I've answered in the chat, but it says, could this work for pre-grad students, e.g. final year, or only for postgrad such as honors or masters? So if one of you would like to take that.
Yeah, maybe I can make a comment, because actually the bulk of our users are from the undergrads. So you don't need to be an MBA student to join, and we have a range of different simulations. The sweet spot for the simulation typically is kind of like a capstone course, something where they need to apply what they have studied, but that works equally well in the undergrad as in the grad level or postgrad. And also for the competition, obviously, all the bachelor students are welcome to join. So.
Okay, brilliant. I just maybe Veijo, you'd like to just talk a little bit more about our next session on the 11th of August and how this simulation and the competition is feeding into the conference in November. Maybe Denver also would like to pick this up. I think it's quite important that our community understands how all the pieces of the puzzle are fitting together, rather than just jumping in and saying this is a competition that stands alone, because many of our I guess institutions have not yet used simulations due to the cost, and this is one way that they can access and see how simulations work and become part of the curriculum through what we've organized between our institutions now. Maybe you can just talk a little bit about that, please.
Well, Denver is the mastermind putting together this entire webinar series, so I'm happily going to let him make that commentary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Collaboration with a lot of people. Yeah, thanks for the question, Anne. So what we're trying to do is at Boston City campus, I'm the head of quality promotion and research, and I'm also the chair of ACBSP Region 8, which is ACBSP is the Accreditation Council for Business School and Programs based in the US. And they are very much peer driven. And so I'm chair of Region 8, which is the international region for ACBSP. And what we're trying to do as chair for Region 8, we're hosting a conference in November. And what we're trying to do is add value to our broader community in that region. And so we partnered with SABSA, we partnered with Cesim, we partnered with the journal Perspectives in Education, a range of partnerships. And this one partnership is now a collaboration between SABSA and with Cesim, where we are trying to encourage students to participate in this competition, but also for academics to participate in our conference and practitioners. So our conference is focused on AI and education, but we're really trying to make it a meaningful engagement for our broader stakeholder group. And that isn't anyone you don't have to be a member of ACBSP or SABSA to participate. We're trying to make the value to the broader region. And so we're trying to encourage people to present at the conference, engage at the conference, but we're also trying to add value in other ways. And so that's why we're partnering with Veijo, why we had Sadashni to give her insight. And we're really hoping that institutions from around the international region will actually participate in this competition and join us at the conference. And so that's what we're trying to do. Our main mission, my main mission as chair for Region 8, in terms of our partnerships and engagement with you, is to add value. And hopefully this does add value. So that's what we're really trying to do. So it's all part of the goal to add value through the conference and through the webinar series, through this competition, is what we're trying to do. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Can I make one introduction here, because my colleague Graham Kirkup, your countryman, is with us on this call, and he's the one who's actually working with our higher education partners in the African continent. So later, maybe those of you who want to start looking at this in more detail, then you're going to be interacting with Graham. So maybe just say hi.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Graham, it'd be great to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks. Good. Thanks, Denver. Yeah, it's wonderful, first of all, to hear the South African accents. I'm now based in the UK for my sins, but it's absolutely wonderful to see the work that you're doing. Well done, Denver. And yeah, we certainly are hoping to make some inroads there. I'm fully familiar with the South African dynamics, and I heard Anne mention that it's normally a cost issue. I'm also here to allay some of those concerns as well. So hopefully we don't have all the cost issues that you necessarily suspect from international organizations.
Thank you so much. And just to ask a favor of anyone in this call, if you could just spread the word about the competition and the conference, because we really want people to participate, and we think and the webinar series, there's unique opportunities available to a range of people in the border region.
100%. Right. So I think the next thing to diarize is the 11th of August. I've just posted in the chat our series of events that we are doing together with ACBSP Region 8. So please diarize. We're also sending it out on LinkedIn and on email. So please all be aware of that. Just to wrap up then, I wanted to thank Denver, Veijo, and Sadashni for this really informative and engaging session. I think it's really very useful to work out how exactly these business simulations work and get a clearer understanding of the Cesim Elite ACBSP Region 8 qualifier and how the institutions and students can participate. So, as we heard from Veijo, fortune favors the prepared. So, read the manual carefully and use practice rounds effectively. Understand the strengths of your team and assign clear responsibilities. I guess this works for all of us. So, we look forward to hearing from you again on the 11th of August, together with Professor Wynand van Dijk. And they're going to explore how business simulations can be intentionally embedded into curriculum design to support learning outcomes, assessment strategies, graduate attributes, and applied decision making. So just thank you, everybody. Thank you to our speakers and to everyone who joined us today. And we really hope to see you at the next session on 11th of August. If there are any questions, please email Denver or myself, or you can email Veijo directly. His details are on the website or can be posted here in the chat. And on that note, thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon.